I'm going to be the king of the pirates. Failing upwards is a concept that refers to someone being promoted in spite of persistent incompetence or failure. This term is usually associated with people that put in no effort or are woefully bad at their jobs but inexplicably constantly climb up the ladder for no apparent reason. I can't think of a better person that fits this description other than the genius jester himself, Buggy the Clown from One Piece. Not only has he been failing upwards throughout the entirety of One Piece, I have reason to believe that he is still not done. I think that Buggy's tumble to the top of the pirate world won't end with him just being an emperor of the sea, but his incompetence is going to take him all the way to Laugh Tale. My name is Luke, and this is my channel where I share my lukewarm takes on anime, manga, and more, and my lukewarm take of the day is that Buggy the Clown will become the king of the pirates. One of the major reasons why Buggy will become the pirate king is because he gets plenty of sleep, since rest is very important when you're trying to find the One Piece. I want to make sure that my audience is capable of pursuing their dreams as well, which is why I partnered with the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Manta Sleep. You have a decision to make. Are you going to let your sleep quality deteriorate as you stay up till 5 AM watching anime again because you can't seem to fall asleep? Or are you going to take back control of your sleep schedule with Manta Sleep? I have always been a fan of getting a good night's rest, and Manta Sleep has been crucial in helping me achieve the best sleep I can get in order to balance my busy schedule. I got the Manta Silk Sleep Mask, which helps me sleep in any position since I toss and turn a lot in my sleep. Its effortlessly adjustable design can fit onto any head shape. And the best part is the absolute comfort I feel wearing this sleep mask. It truly feels like I'm royalty when I'm wearing it to sleep. I'm even going to make it extra easy for all of you because if you click the link in my description or use the code LukewarmTakes at checkout on the Manta Sleep website, you can get 10% off your first Manta Sleep mask today. It's very important that I mention right now that I don't believe that Buggy will actually physically find the One Piece, since it will be 100% Luffy who finds it. However, as for the actual title of King of the Pirates, there's reasonable evidence to show that Buggy will wear that metaphorical crown. I mean, let's just look at his career over the past 25 years of One Piece's publication. Buggy the Clown began his illustrious career as a simple villain of the week. His role in the story of the Orangetown arc was to introduce Luffy to the fact that there were other devil fruit users besides him in the world, and they aren't all friendly. Although he did have the desire to obtain the One Piece, Buggy had a more important goal of securing the treasure of Captain John, an old deceased pirate whose zombie we encounter later on Thriller Bark. Buggy's introduction gave us insight into his personality and paints a pretty good picture of the core of his character. His large red nose was a point of insecurity, so Buggy decided that he would make sure that people recognized him in spite of that glaring deformity. When he was an apprentice on the Roger Pirate's crew, we see his ambition for wealth and recognition as well as his ability to trick others. Ever the opportunist, Buggy pretended to eat a devil fruit that the Roger crew found and intended to sell it and use that money to build his own crew. This deceitful plan, however, was foiled by the first person wearing a straw hat that he would grow to hate, Shanks. Thanks to Shanks, instead of selling the devil fruit, he accidentally ate it and is now penniless and unable to swim. This, of course, didn't stop his ambition as we picked back up with him at the beginning of One Piece. As a clown, Buggy loves spectacle. This is why he constantly uses the word flashy when referring to his attacks and why he loves an audience. The live action of Buggy captures this need for attention very well by showing us Buggy's literal captive audience who were forced to watch his performances. I also have to give it up for Jeff Ward, who elevated Buggy from the manga and anime to live action with the over-the-top flair and near delusional grandiosity that the clown deserves. Little did we know this penchant for showmanship and knack for grand spectacles would take Buggy farther than he would even realize. In Logtown, when the clown reunites with his arch nemesis, Luffy kinda just lets himself get put into the executioner's platform and allows Buggy to swing a sword at his head. Gear 5 or not, this would have ended Luffy's life, as we know he's very vulnerable to bladed weapons and he's willing to let Buggy just do it. Buggy once again gathers an audience for his quote-unquote flashy execution of Monkey D. Luffy. He wanted as many eyes on him as possible because again, the spotlight is his best friend. Fortunately for the future Emperor of the Seas, a very convenient bolt of lightning strikes the platform, allowing him to keep his rubbery head, while Buggy gets foiled once again by someone wearing the same straw hat. After Logtown, we see Buggy briefly partying with Ace before his ultimate confrontation with Blackbeard. Then we don't see the clown again until Luffy ends up in Impel Down. Luffy and Buggy's reunion would then kickstart a series of events that would permanently reshape Buggy the Clown's reputation for the rest of One Piece. So far, Buggy has been failing upwards pretty subtly. He accidentally ate his devil fruit and lost the money, but gained a useful power that he utilized to rule Orange Town. He lost to Luffy but gained a powerful crew member in Alvida. He lost to Luffy again but befriended a powerful Whitebeard pirate commander. He was sent to Impel Down but was rescued by Luffy because he recognized him. Luffy even gave Buggy an armband containing the treasure map to Captain John's treasure, which was the one thing he desired for years. His upward trajectory would skyrocket after Impel Down, and not even Buggy himself could stop it even if he wanted to. Thanks to his former title as a Roger pirate, the world government believed that he was one of the two masterminds behind the breakout next to Monkey D. Luffy, which increased his notoriety and infamy. In the world of One Piece, the news, perception, and titles hold a lot of power. The 7 warlords, the 4 emperors, the admirals are all titles that invoke power and fear. The person who wields the power of perception the best in the entire series is the person who has been the ultimate opportunist, the ultimate showman, the ultimate manipulator of perception, whether accidentally or not. It was Buggy the Clown, who at this point the world believes orchestrated one of the biggest attacks on the world government in history. The world believes that he commands the likes of the revolutionary Ivankov and former warlords like Crocodile and Jinbei. Buggy did little more than try to save his own hide throughout the entirety of Impel Down. But it was his failure and this near godly level of luck that earned him the acclaim and followers that he had been searching for all of his life. And of course, he wasn't done yet, as the makeshift Prison Break crew was on their way to Marineford to once again make history a few hours after just making history. At Marineford, Buggy discovered the ultimate way to satisfy his need for attention and channel his inner Twitch streamer by live streaming the entire events of the Summit War. Since Buggy's livestream was the only communication with the outside world as to what was happening at Marineford, he not only controlled the media, he became the media. Buggy claimed credit for things like opening the gates of justice, being able to go toe-to-toe with the world's greatest swordsman because apparently he was the only thing that Mihawk can't cut, and even proclaimed that he was taking on Whitebeard. The last thing that the world saw was him saving the lives of Monkey D. Luffy and Jinbei the Warlord. Even though he was once again just trying to survive the entire time, his followers took his every action as a part of some grand mastermind plan or some noble pursuit. Buggy stopped existing as a simple man in Marineford. Instead, he became an idea, an image of the great pirate who served on Roger's crew. The pirate who stood up to both the government and Whitebeard. The warrior on par with Dracul Mihawk and the admirals. The man who casually confronted the Emperor Shanks when he arrived to stop the war. The perception of Buggy had finally outweighed the man himself. People often say that nobody won at the end of Marineford. I would argue that the winner was absolutely Buggy the Clown. Thanks to his numerous happy accidents and ability to seize every opportunity that fell at his feet despite his incompetence, Buggy secured a position as one of the 7 warlords of the sea right before the time skip. Despite his clear lack of powers or significant personal victories, Buggy was moving up in the world, embodying the term failing upwards. When we pick up with Buggy after the time skip, we see that he has fully embraced the showmanship persona. All of Buggy's victories and his entire rise to power has been based on his power to manipulate perception, and now his design perfectly reflects that. Buggy's post-time skip design has him draped in a large cloak and uses his powers to make himself appear large and imposing. I couldn't think of a better way to design his character, as he appears large, powerful, and intimidating thanks to his theatrics, but inside he's literally nothing but hot air. Buggy going from the third villain of the week to having the same title as Mihawk and Doflamingo was funny enough, but of course this is not the highest that Buggy's failure would take him. As we all know, during the Wano arc, the world government abolished the warlord system, making them all wanted pirates again. Crocodile had the great idea of starting a company and forcing Buggy to work for him to pay off his debts. After recruiting Mihawk into his schemes, Crocodile and Mihawk started Cross Guild, an underground pirate organization that places bounties on marines. Buggy was originally supposed to be nothing more than free labor and was in charge of marketing for Cross Guild until something unexpected yet completely expected happened. Buggy once again failed upwards. When Buggy's followers were creating the posters to promote Cross Guild, they placed Buggy's face largest and in the dead center, right above Mihawk and Crocodile. Once again, the power of perception pushed Buggy's status higher than ever before, and world now believes that he is the mastermind behind Cross Guild and that he commands both Crocodile and the world's greatest swordsman, Mihawk. It was tremendously lucky that at this time, both Kaido and Big Mom were defeated on Wano, leaving a gap in the roster of emperors. This is how Buggy the Clown, the former Roger Pirate's apprentice, became one of the 4 emperors of the sea, alongside Blackbeard, his old nemesis Shanks, and his new nemesis Monkey D. Luffy. Most of Buggy's successes aren't even intentional, as he didn't ask to be perceived as a hero during Impel Down, but accepted the role once he realized he had followers. As for the Cross Guild poster, his followers just assumed that he deserved to be front and center because they were that devoted to him. Luckily for Buggy, as you can see, luck is a common motif with the genius jester, and Crocodile and Mihawk didn't immediately off him for claiming to be above them. Instead, the powerful duo realized that they now had a convenient fall guy, and all of the blame for Cross Guild's action would now land on his big red nose. Buggy's greedy desire for attention has now put him in a hostage situation where he is forced to hold the title of Emperor of the Seas. He has truly become a victim of his own success. So, how do I think Buggy the Clown's story will wrap up at the end of One Piece? Well, if you read the title of this video and watched the first few minutes of it, I fundamentally believe that Buggy the Clown will end up becoming king of the pirates. Or at least he'll be perceived as the king of the pirates. If you look at his career in One Piece, the common theme that happens with Buggy is that he fails upwards, and that no matter how pathetic his actions are, he will always be perceived as doing something incredible. His cowardly behavior at Impel Down and Marineford earned him the recognition as a hero and a spot on the 7 warlords. Him being extorted by Crocodile and Mihawk accidentally got him perceived as a leader of one of the most dangerous organizations on the planet and a spot as one of the 4 emperors. The story of One Piece is not over, and I don't believe that Buggy's incompetent ascension is over either. We all know that everything will collide either right before the Straw Hats arrive at Laugh Tale or on Laugh Tale itself. Since this is the location of the One Piece, all major parties of the story will be there. The Straw Hat Pirates, the Blackbeard Pirates, the Redhead Pirates, the Revolutionaries, the World Government, and most importantly, Cross Guild. Since Zoro has yet to defeat Mihawk and claim his title of the world's greatest swordsman, we know that Cross Guild has to be involved as Luffy's crew gets closer to finding the One Piece. We also know that the world government will cut off any communication of the outside world like they did with Marineford. We also know that the final confrontation of One Piece will be on a scale that is way bigger than Marineford ever was. All that's left once the dust settles will be Luffy and the one other person that we have seen accidentally survive every life-threatening situation he's ever been in and came out with more fame and wealth than he's ever had before. The most poetic end for One Piece and for Luffy and Buggy's story is for Luffy to obtain and have the One Piece while Buggy claims the credit for it. Think about it. Luffy has never once shown interest in having titles or attention. He always screams that he'll become king of the pirates, but only because he is dead set on fulfilling his dream of freedom, not because he wants the actual prestige of the title itself. Luffy doesn't care for prestige or hierarchy. The One Piece is a means to achieve his goal rather than the goal itself. Buggy, on the other hand, only ever wants the title and the fame that comes with it. Ever since he was a young ward on Roger's ship, he has always dreamt of wealth, fame, and power. These are all of the superficial things that came with the One Piece and the title of the Pirate King. Much like Buggy himself, the perception of the One Piece has been warped and manipulated. Everyone sees it as simply a superficial treasure. Since no one knows what the One Piece is or what it does, everyone assumes that the person who finds it will simply revel in their innumerable wealth, fame, and power. It would be fitting to have Buggy obtain the treasure that is as shallow and as superficial as he is, a meaningless treasure for a meaningless king. It makes the most sense that Buggy the Clown, the man who is ruled by perception, the pirate who constantly fails upwards because the world views him as superficially more than he is, ends up with the superficial title of the Pirate King. This is all Buggy has ever obtained, credit for things he didn't do. It's been clear from the beginning of the story and from the emergence of Gear 5 that Oda wants One Piece to be a story that ends in laughter. I believe that's particularly why he gave Buggy the Clown so much narrative weight despite his relevance and strength being far outweighed so quickly after his introduction. We even see that Buggy was always meant to become an emperor thanks to the cover of Volume 25 released in 2002 showing Shanks, Buggy, Blackbeard, and Luffy, all of whom become the new 4 emperors. Buggy's punchline is that he constantly fails upwards and the impact of the comedy is boosted by the heights that he reaches. I'm not the only one who found it absolutely hilarious when he not only became a warlord but eventually an emperor with a higher bounty than Luffy and seemingly commanded Mihawk, who is Zoro's final boss. There is literally only one more punchline left that Oda can deliver when it comes to Buggy the Genius Jester. Only one more position he can fail up to, and that's to become the king of the pirates. Thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. Thank you again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring today's video, and let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on Buggy potentially becoming the Pirate King in name only. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time with some more lukewarm takes.